Hello, and welcome to AFSPA Live, our monthly digital broadcast designed to give AFSPA members and eligible federal employees a place to ask questions and get answers about past AFSPA Talks topics, their benefits, and wellness needs. You can ask your question through the chat box on whichever social media platform you're streaming AFSPA Live, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. If you're not able to join us live, call our toll-free line prior to the broadcast at 888-435-0757 and leave our team a voice message that we may play back and answer live on air. Just tell us who you are and the question you'd like us to answer. I'll see you at the next AFSPA Live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to AFSPA Live, a live video broadcast Q&A session that we stream every last Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Maddie Norton. I'm a Senior Communication Coordinator at AFSPA, and I'm excited to be moderating the show today. We are discussing family planning, and joining us today is AFSPA CEO Kyle Longton, and our special guest is Dr. Kathleen Green from Maven Clinic. How's everyone doing today?
Doing well, Maddie.
Thank you.
We are so excited to have Dr. Green here today, and we will go ahead and jump right into some questions. First question would be, at what point would someone move from trying on their own to speaking with a fertility specialist?
That's a really good question. And most of the time we would say 12 months of trying if 34 and under, 35 and over, typically 6 months, unless there's some certain things that are kind of going on. So if you're having irregular periods or have some preconditions like diabetes or PMOS, which used to be polycystic ovarian syndrome, or endometriosis, really heavy periods, painful periods, any of those things that are making you think that you may have a harder time getting pregnant, it's never a wrong time to speak to a fertility specialist. If you have concerns about that, then you would want to start earlier rather than later. But most of the time, 12 to 6 months of trying.
And I'll just add, through our partnership with Aetna, we do offer members access to fertility advocates who members can reach out to at any time to have that conversation, to learn about resources such as Maven that are available as they're exploring ways to grow their family. So there's no wrong time to reach out to get that sense, and they can also advise on sort of benefits that are covered as part of this process.
All right. And since we are talking about IVF, how many rounds of IVF does the Foreign Service Benefit Plan cover, Kyle?
Yeah, so according to the plan brochure, there is not a specific number of rounds that we cover. That a lot of that's going to obviously be between the patient and their doctor, and what is recommended, and what is necessary if the patient wants to continue, the doctor recommends it. So we cover without a limit. There's no dollar limit, no number of cycle limits per the plan brochure. We do cover that at 90%. Members are responsible for 10% after the calendar year deductible. But I just want to remind members that if they're exploring IVF or any ART services, so IVF being the most common, but there are others out there, and your provider can recommend that. We do require that members, one, get prior approval from the plan for any ART services, and two, if you're in the United States, that you go to one of the Institutes of Excellence infertility providers to have those ART services provided. That is how it's covered, but that is also part of the prior approval process that our dedicated care managers can walk members through.
Gotcha. Good to know. And then we'll jump back to Dr. Green. What should members know about PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, or other common conditions that can affect fertility?
I think it's important to know that they're very common, I think much more than we often think, but that it doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant. It just means that you may need to be a little bit more proactive. I think one of the other important things to notice is often these conditions take a really long time to get a diagnosis as well. So this is where meeting with one of our care advocates at Maven or one of our OBGYNs or providers can really help prepare you for your visits in person. And get you the right questions to ask, can give you more information, because our goal is to really help educate you about the symptoms that you're having. Many women and men often leave visits with in-person providers with not really getting understanding of what's going on as well. And that's not because you're seeing a bad provider. It's just that sometimes the visits are very short. And so meeting with us ahead of time can make sure that you understand what the visit is for. We can help you with questions before the visit and make sure that you're getting the best care possible. You may think that you have fibroids, but after meeting with us, like, I don't know that that's the right thing to do, but let's kind of explore this. Or maybe you're not even seeing the right provider type as well. And so these conditions, while they're common, it doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant, but that we do want to make sure that they're taken care of and really help you advocate with your in-person provider.
Perfect. And you mentioned meeting with Maven just so that you can get the questions or get the questions down pat that you would ask your provider. So for someone pursuing IVF or other fertility treatment, what questions should they ask their doctor before starting?
Yeah, I think that's another really good question. I think one of the first questions I generally encourage patients to ask is this the best treatment for me? And should I try something else prior to starting this treatment? And what is the success rate? So when we think about IVF, in vitro fertilization, should really be the last treatment. It should be kind of the last stop on the route. We really want to try other things prior to that. So whether that is just trying on our own for a certain amount of time, or trying medications or intrauterine insemination, so taking partner sperm and putting it inside the uterus. And this is a really good thing that Kyle said is the center of excellence. So we want to make sure that we're going to a really high quality fertility clinic, because IVF, while it can help many couples get pregnant, it should always be the last resort. And so even sometimes just timing intercourse a little bit more accurately or doing some additional testing can be beneficial. So I encourage patients to ask, is this the best treatment option for me? Are there other things that I should try first? What's my success rate based on my specific condition, based on my age? How many cycles should be recommended for me? And so I think one of the things that we often think is that IVF is always going to be a success right off the bat, but sometimes based on your conditions, you may only have a 20% success rate or 50% success rate. Or maybe you have an 80% success rate, but you have a 50% success rate trying something else less invasive ahead of time, because IVF is expensive and it's invasive. So should I try something else first? For example, medication that you try with certain cycles, typically 4 to 6 cycles before IVF, can sometimes have a 40 to 50% success rate, significantly less expensive, less invasive. So I think one of the biggest questions is, should I try anything before IVF, or is this the best first option?
Good to know. And we do have a question from the audience. Kyle, this will be a question for you. Does AFSPA have benefits or resources for adoption or using a surrogate?
Good questions. And the answer on the adoption piece is no. The plan does not provide benefits for adoption. After I answer the second part, I'll come back and ask Dr. Green a little bit about what Maven offers in support of both of these routes of family growth. So no services for adoption. When it comes to surrogacy, obviously there's a lot of different ways to approach that. What I can tell you is that we typically do not pay for surrogate services. There may be services that come up to prior to implantation of an embryo in the surrogate mother, and those services may be covered under the plan subject to medical necessity and prior approval. But typically the services of the surrogate are not covered by the plan. And the same is true for a member who is serving as a surrogate for someone else. We'll cover those subject to a reimbursement agreement. That is outlined in the brochure. So benefits are a little scant perhaps in that area compared to maybe some other commercial insurance that may be out there. But that is where the plan stands right now. But that's not to say that there isn't support in terms of navigating the process. And Maven does offer some of that support. Now, Dr. Green, perhaps you can offer some more insight into the specifics there.
Absolutely. So we do have lots of resources for adoption and surrogacy. So we have adoption coaches and surrogacy coaches. That's a really good starting place just to really explore options. And we also have resources, meaning that if you're starting with adoption, so if you're looking to start with an adoption, meeting with an adoption coach, think over the different types of adoption, whether that's going to be a domestic adoption, so inside the United States, or international adoption, can talk about the different costs, open adoption versus closed adoption. We can also meet with an adoption pediatrician or adoption providers as well, because when you are leaning towards adoption, you want to know as much as you can about the child that you're going to adopt, whether that's a young child or an older child. You can have an adoption pediatrician or a physician that can help you review those medical records as well. So that can be helpful in just really navigating that process. Sometimes even navigating the legal aspect, we can provide resources for that. Same thing with surrogacy as well. We have surrogacy coaches as well, and help you find a surrogate agency as well to match with, depending on if you're doing a traditional surrogate or gestational care. There's some different nuances to that as well. One of my favorite type of appointments is birth planning appointment. So basically you meet with me or one of our doulas or childbirth educators and plan the birth. But I do surrogacy birth planning appointment. And so we go over how you can discuss with your surrogate how you want that birth plan to go, but also advocate for your hospital as well. So we've come a long way. So if you have a surrogate, can you have a hospital room beside your surrogate? Are you going to be in the delivery room? Are you going to cut the cord? Is there going to be breastfeeding or immunizations, and will you attend the visit? So things like that, we can help you navigate those things. And some things you think about and not. One of the things that often comes up is vaccines during the pregnancy. So are you going to encourage the surrogate to get the COVID vaccine or the flu vaccine? How are you going to travel? If there's an induction, how do you navigate that? So all of those things, we can help you navigate the pieces. And I think that that can be really important and very supportive as well.
That's incredible, especially when you're already going through planning for a child and having to figure out that entire process. And there's things that you may not think of. So Maven is great to have those resources available and be able to help you through that. With that being said, does Maven support, like, where's my question? Hold on. If I enroll in Maven through FSBP, can my spouse also join Maven for free? That's probably a Kyle question.
I absolutely, yes. So that is a good question. So what I would say is, if you are enrolled in Maven through FSBP, your spouse can absolutely take advantage of partner resources, if that is something. And again, we'll come back to Dr. Green for more information on those partner resources when we're talking about this. And part of that is also if they're looking for services of their own. They may also need to be an FSBP member in that case if they're looking to access services for themselves. But when it comes to partner resources, I'm going to assume from this question, maybe there's more context, but that both spouses are covered under Foreign Service Benefit Plan, in which case Maven is available to both. And there are some great partner resources that are out there, particularly when we're talking about the fertility and the maternity process. And I think especially when we get into the pediatrics stage, right? Postpartum pediatrics, where hopefully ideally, I would say for many people, everybody's contributing and may need some support. So, Dr. Green, perhaps I'll stop babbling and ask you to provide some expertise in that area in terms of what members can turn to Maven for.
Yeah. So when a person gets eligible for Maven, they get one partner account. And so that partner account can have their own services, or they can just be a partner account as well. So if they are enrolled in the fertility services, they will get pushed fertility benefits. If it is a pregnancy, then they will get how to be the best spouse possible while their partner is pregnant as well. But they can also access resources on their own as well. For example, there's some midlife things that can go on as well. And so if they're having some own health crises or want to talk with mental health, that can be helpful as well. We have great parent coaches. Sleep coaches are one of our most utilized as well. How to get that baby to sleep through the night as well. Childcare consultants. Do I need a nanny? Do I need a daycare? All of those things can be really helpful as well, especially navigating new parents, or also just navigating their fertility and sometimes the male infertility piece as well, because that can also be overwhelming depending on who is going through the fertility, because there's lots of fertility support for women, but sometimes not as much for men as well. So we do offer male fertility support and midlife care as well. So yes, the partner can access Maven and utilize all of those resources.
Good to know. Good to know. Just like Kyle was saying, we would hope that everyone's involved at this stage. So it's nice to know that Maven is making sure everyone's supported and is enjoying this process. So definitely check out those resources that Maven provides. I would love to know more about like what specific providers Maven offers for a couple struggling to conceive, whether that looks like obviously OBGYN, nutritionist maybe.
So almost anything that you can imagine. So OBGYNs, reproductive endocrinologists, or infertility specialists. We also have fertility awareness coaches, which I think is amazing as well. So let's say that you're starting on this journey. One of Maven's biggest goals is to help every couple conceive naturally if possible. And we're able to achieve that really just with education. Most of us, I grew up in Texas, we didn't get any education on sexual health or reproduction as well. And so I'm not surprised that many couples kind of get to this point and they just don't really know much about anything. So our fertility awareness coaches will teach you about ovulation. When is the best time to have intercourse? Kind of getting to know your body from the male and female side as well. We have general practitioners, we have family practice doctors, we have naturopathic providers that can go over supplements. If you have PMOS, which used to be PCOS, what are things that you can incorporate into your diet to decrease inflammation and help you ovulate naturally as well? Physical support coach, which are our personal trainer / physical therapist as well to help you become more active. We have wellness coaches, which I think is one of the most utilized appointment types as well. So let's say that you want to become pregnant within the next 12 months, but you're not really active and you're sedentary. So your wellness coach is like your best friend virtually that's going to hit that bag of chips out of your hand so that you can go walking around the block and really keep you motivated, but also hold you accountable as well. Mental health providers. So if you're struggling with fertility, depression is very common, or if you've had a loss, our mental health providers can help with that as well. So lots of different provider types. When you do get pregnant, we have lactation consultants, doulas, childbirth educators, pediatricians as well. So tons and tons of resources that can help you really with every aspect of your fertility journey.
Can I take us down just a side path for a moment? Because there's been a lot on social media feeds and things like that about the change from PCOS to PMOS, which is less than a month old at this point, I think. I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit more, Dr. Green, about sort of the significance of that. And it's not, people aren't suddenly have a different symptoms or anything. It's just maybe a better description, better recognition of what actually is causing these symptoms for individuals. And I'll leave it there and look forward to learning something.
Yeah, absolutely. So for most of us, we thought that it was a long time overdue to change the diagnosis. So polycystic ovarian syndrome is really just a misnomer. And it leads to many women being underdiagnosed. So the latest statistic I saw was about 70% of women with PCOS go underdiagnosed, or it takes them a really long time. And it's a misnomer. So there's not really cyst on your ovaries at all. And it often leads to lots of stigma as well. So it would change to polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. So PMOS, which is a little bit of a tongue twister, but it really goes to more of the pathophysiology of what happened. So PCOS really tells us nothing. But what does happen is with that, it's really a metabolic condition. So we know that women with PMOS often have insulin resistance, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, increased risk of diabetes, all these other conditions that we really need to address as well. So it's not just difficulty getting pregnant or anovulation, meaning that they're not ovulating every single month, but they are at increased risk of long-term complications. So one of the things that I talk to women about when they're diagnosed with PMOS is, yes, you're having difficulty getting pregnant. Yes, you're having irregular periods, but that's a small part of it. How are we going to manage this lifelong? So even if you start getting regular periods, even if you get pregnant, which that's our goal, if that's your goal, we also need to make sure that we are maintaining a healthy lifestyle, because you're a significantly increased risk of complications later on in life. So at that new onset of diagnosis, we need to check cholesterol. We need to check hemoglobin A1C to see if you have pre-diabetes. We need to check hypertension. We need to screen you for depression, because you're at significantly increased risk of depression as well. And so the change in nomenclature, we really hope that this will spark a conversation. It will lead to more women being diagnosed, and it can improve health outcomes for everyone.
Nice. And so it's just essentially making it easier for people to be diagnosed, especially since you gave us that statistic that it can take women so long to be diagnosed, even if they have all the symptoms, and just getting the diagnosis on their medical records can take years. So hopefully we see improvements in that in the future. That was a great question, Kyle. All right, so we will jump to, obviously most of our members are stateside, but we do have a majority of, or some of our members overseas. So
Sure.
is Maven available overseas?
So I'm assuming yes, based on the carrier, but yes, so we are international. So we can see you wherever you are. And
Perfect.
I see members all of the time. Yes. Some of our resources are different, but we also have translation services as well. And we can usually direct you to specific services that are available in your area. For example, if we're looking at adoption or surrogacy resources, we can usually kind of guide you to what may be a little bit different depending on where you live, or fertility resources as well, because it will depend specifically where you are. But yes, you can call us or log in really from anywhere, and we are available 24/7.
Yep. And I'll just add that was one of the greatest pieces when we were looking for a partner like this. Maven was offering that, and I think at that time over 170 different countries, which of course we've got members pretty much everywhere. And especially when it came to the help navigating surrogacy and adoption and some of those questions, and as well as providers, if you're looking at fertility options. We don't have a network outside the United States. We have some direct billing partners and so forth that offer art services and so forth, but we don't have specific institutes of excellence outside the U.S. And I think Maven brings some of that expertise in areas. We are delighted to have that service available to members, and I hope more members will use it as they need it for whatever age or stage of life that you're in. Maven's got support for you.
Absolutely. And we've already kind of covered this, but just specifically, what if there are no fertility experts near me, at least to be seen in person?
So yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So, and depending on where you live, even in the United States, there are some OB deserts or fertility deserts. So you can still work with us and we can help kind of guide you. Sometimes it may mean traveling a little bit farther as well. But we can kind of guide you to what's covered by your insurance, what that center of excellence is. And that's where I think we play a bigger role as well, because then you really have to get the most out of those visits as well. And so sometimes working with your local OBGYN, even if they're not a fertility center, kind of getting those labs in locally. And that's kind of the best part, is we can do a lot of that coaching piece. So if you have a provider in person, this is what you need to do. This is what I'd recommend asking for, so that you could make those, if you have to travel to a fertility clinic, it's going to be much more productive if you have all of those things done locally.
And I'll just add, in terms of coverage, first of all, if we're talking about testing for infertility and so forth, you can go to any network or non-network provider for that matter. The same for artificial insemination procedures. I think IUI being the most common these days. Those can be performed by your OBGYN and other provider. It's when we come to art services that the benefits are limited to the Institutes of Excellence. However, we don't have Institutes of Excellence everywhere or within a reasonable distance for people. If that happens, maybe we can help with the navigation. You can also reach out to our care managers, who will be part of the prior approval process, or the fertility advocates, and they can help if there's call it a network inadequacy issue. And if that is the case, because there are absolutely whole states in some cases that don't have a provider that falls into the Institutes of Excellence, they can help identify, work with you for the provider maybe you've already been engaging with, and work out the care plan to make sure everything's in place and that you're getting the care you need without having to get on a flight every month or every couple of weeks. So that there are procedures in place for that, and you can work with our care management team and the fertility advocates to identify what options will work best for you.
Wonderful. And one of the questions that I think is great is, what resources does Maven offer that people might not know are helpful to their specific family planning journey?
So preconceptual visits are another really important key. So if you are planning on becoming pregnant within the next year or so, or 6 months, have a preconception visit with one of our OBGYNs or family practice docs, because this is going to really help you plan your fertility journey. And in a perfect world, every single couple would meet with an OBGYN or family practice doc or internal medicine a year before they plan on becoming pregnant. So we would get labs drawn, you would establish care with an OB. It's really hard to find an OB when you actually are pregnant, as ridiculous as that sounds. And so in this preconceptual visit, I'm going to tell you do you have an OBGYN? And most of the time you're going to say no. So I'm like, let's help you find an OBGYN now that's covered within your insurance and set up that visit. Because now you have time. You don't have to do it within that 8 to 12 weeks of pregnancy. If you have an OBGYN that your friends all go to, but she's booked out 9 months, great. We don't really care because you're not pregnant now. But you can set up that preconceptual visit. We will talk about things that you can do now to ensure that you will be in the best shape to get pregnant. So what that entails is making sure chronic health conditions are under check. So if you have hypertension or if you have diabetes, we'll talk about what those blood pressure goals are, make sure that you're on a blood pressure medication that's safe for pregnancy. Talk about hemoglobin A1C goals as well. Are the medications that you're on safe as well? We'll talk about vaccines that we need to make sure don't need to be revaccinated as well. There's some titers that we recommend checking that tend to wane as we get older. A couple of those are live vaccines. So you cannot get pregnant for 3 months after getting them. If you were to get one of these illnesses during pregnancy, it is life-threatening to baby. So this is the perfect time to get revaccinated if you do, especially with the measles and chickenpox outbreaks that we've had as well. This is the perfect time to check titers. There's also genetic counseling that we recommend. So typically, woman gets tested first. If you're a carrier for like sickle cell or thalassemia or cystic fibrosis, we would test your partner as well. These are really important things to make sure of that you don't are carrier for, that we can do some genetic counseling. Also, pap smear, STI screening. These are all things that we want to make sure that we get prior to pregnancy as well, just because it's going to decrease the risk of complications in pregnancy. We also are going to tell you to take a prenatal vitamin 3 months before trying to get pregnant, because we want that folic acid to build up in your system to decrease the risk of spinal cord defects. Are you taking the right prenatal visit? And then we'll talk about tracking menstrual cycles. If your periods are irregular, I'm going to encourage you to see an OBGYN sooner rather than later. So these are all of the things that we're going to go over. But one of the most important things is finding an OB prior to actually getting pregnant and setting up that preconceptual visit to establish care. Because then when you are pregnant, you just call and say, hey, I'm pregnant, and they can get you in quickly because you're already an established patient. So preconception is great. Meeting with the nutritionist as well is really good. All of these things are really important before you start trying to get pregnant to make sure that pregnancy has the least amount of complications.
I'll just add, establishing those relationships can be critical, not just in the US, but even overseas. We had a member a couple years ago who was getting care on a military base, I think overseas, ran into some complications and started seeking care on the economy in Japan, called some hospitals, and they said, no. She was, I think, 3 or 4 months along. They said, you have to book with us and get in with us at least 7 months prior to your due date. We can't do anything for you at this point. So definitely keep that in mind wherever you are. I know that can be difficult, particularly if you're only there for a year or two, and you might be, our foreign service members may be PCSing in between or during a pregnancy or something, but do your best, and there's local resources at every post, and even for those who are civilians on the bases overseas, good resources offered sometimes by the local MTF or by local groups and civilian groups and employee groups that can help direct you to local care that has been trusted by other Americans in the area.
Absolutely. It's good to know that we're letting people know that, you need to plan way in advance before you have a child. So, and if you don't know where to start and you're an FSBP member, I think a great place to start would obviously be with Maven, just so that you know what to expect and can kind of do a little 5-year plan almost to figure everything out. We are approaching 11:30. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Green, before we jump off?
I think just meet with us if you have questions. And sometimes the questions you don't even know you have until you meet with us. But I think that's kind of the best part about it. And oftentimes that wait before you get that first OB appointment when you're pregnant can be like mind shattering with anxiety. That's when you meet with us. When you have that positive pregnancy test, meet with me or one of my colleagues and what to do. I have tons of symptoms or I have no symptoms. That's where we can help. That 8-week waiting period can be just really anxiety provoking. My other thing that I say all the time is please don't go down the Google rabbit hole. Even if you're trying to get pregnant, undergoing a fertility journey, pregnant, all of those things, you have Maven. Why would you go down the internet, web of doom when you can just meet with us or shoot like a quick message? Because there's so much information out there, often misinformation. So come to us, you have us. So you can do better than kind of an internet, web of doom, and just meet with us and ask questions.
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and put up our Join Maven Clinic code so that people can scan that if they are interested. And it'll take you right to the registration page to join Maven. And once again, Maven is free if you are an FSVP member. And like we've said before, you can get it overseas as well. So all of our members have access to this, and we highly recommend you use it, not just for the stage of family planning. Obviously, Maven covers all life, all throughout your life. So whether it's going through menopause, if you're raising children, if you're planning to have children, this is something that you should definitely take a look at and see all the resources available. If you are wanting to get more content from the three of us, you can watch our AFSPA Talks episode that we did with Dr. Green, and that is on our website or YouTube or any of, Spotify, Apple podcast platforms. You can listen to that. Otherwise, this has been great. Thank you so much, Dr. Green, for joining us. We will be back here next month to discuss men's health because June is Men's Health Month. So prepare your questions, get them ready, and look out for the Microsoft form to join. And if you just want more content in general, check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. It's always active with new podcast episodes, or if you want to watch old AFSPA Lives, we have every single one that we've ever done on our YouTube page. And obviously read our blogs, check out our events. We have monthly events with Prudential and obviously monthly financial wellness webinars. So if you're worried about your finances, or if you need to get your finances in order to have a child,
there you go.
That would be a great time to go. So check those out. But thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Green. Thank you, Kyle, as always, for joining us. And happy May.
Happy May. See you next month. Thanks, Dr. Green.
Of course.
Thanks for watching our broadcast. Join us again the last Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to look for AFSPA Cares on all of our social media channels, YouTube, Instagram,